Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Happy Monday.
On this Monday, when some schools have already reopened, more have than had before, and where some will be reopening this week.
Yeah.
And with in-person instruction and hybrids. The benefit of having had some schools open already, like the week before and this past week, is that Alison and I have some information about what's happening in there. So
as someone who's been in it for 3 weeks,
he's been in it, and I have been working with schools who are doing it and telling me what it's like and what's happening there. So we're going to talk about that today on the podcast. We're going to give everybody a glimpse inside the reality of this reopening. And we have good news and bad news. We have both.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even going to call it bad news. I'm going to call it good news and kind of interesting news.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily bad. We're all learning from it, right?
Right. I feel like we're just all learning. Okay. Or we're going to learn one or the other. So what choice do we have? So do you want to start with the good news? Okay. So pretty universally, I've been hearing that teachers are reporting that the children are coming in and faring much better than they anticipated.
That is true, because I really expected more anxiety from them, I think. And I'm not saying that's not there. It is, but it's definitely not as much as I thought it was going to be. The kids are still coming in and they're still being kids. And that's kind of nice, It makes you as a teacher be like, no, that's what I'm here for, is for them to be kids. It's kind of nice,
That is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
That is kind of nice. I think people did worry and over anticipate the way the children would behave and their anxiety, though we could see some of that in the coming weeks as they get kind of sick and tired of these rules. But I still think, I think it has overall, in regard to the children, it has gone better than pretty much most people pictured. And I keep reminding people, the children have been in this pandemic for 6 months, just like the rest of us. So things like mask wearing have just become a part of their world. Social distance rules have become a part of their world. If they go out to parks or stores or anything with their families, they've seen all this and experienced it. So it's not brand new to them anymore.
Right.
They are better able to cope with it than maybe 5 months ago. So great. So they're coming in and they're not wanting to run in the other direction necessarily.
Yeah. And I also think there's a little bit of like, hey, everybody else is wearing a mask, so it might be all right. Because I had parents email me before school started, be like, hey, my son does not wear a mask for more than 2 hours, so we're trying. And at school, it never was an issue, because I think it's like, he looks next door to his friend. He's like, oh, wait, he's wearing a mask too. And we discussed it all. Like, this is what you need to do in order to come to school. These are school rules. Just like if you went to ShopRite, if you went to the supermarket, you would have to wear a mask. You need to wear a mask all day here at school too. And they're like, all right. They just accept it and move on. I haven't had any trouble with that. I mean, they need help sometimes. They forget sometimes, and if you remind them, I expected it to be like, but I don't want to wear the mask anymore. But no, it wasn't.
Yeah,
I'll put it back on.
I think people were expecting a lot more anxiety and a lot more resistance to the regulations now, and they're not seeing that, and that's wonderful, and that's our good news, that people over-anticipated the negative in regard to the children. People have told me that the classrooms are functioning and not as chaotic as they thought they would be, and things are happening, and the teachers are doing their best to move forward with the children. So that's wonderful, right? Good news from the glimpse inside. And then there's the interesting news.
There's the interesting news.
And the interesting news is this, and it's part of the good news. It's not the children that are so challenging. It's what happens because of all of the new COVID-19 procedures that's so challenging.
That is challenging. Yes. So Because of new COVID procedures, it takes a lot longer to do many of the things that used to take kind of quick. Arrival and dismissal especially takes much, much longer at school than it ever has before. Like before they even get out of their car or the bus, they have like a million protocols to go through before they even walk into the building. And it's not just them walking off the bus to walking into your class. It's like a 10-minute ordeal to just like, okay, I got to wait online, keep my distance, get my temperature taken, disinfect my hands, walk to the classroom, try not to touch anything. You can't just walk in with a group of people. It's like, no, you've got to wait here because you've got to keep 6 feet distance. So it's like arrival and dismissal take an hour at least at my school.
Well, yeah, so, I think add to that the fact that if you're in a place where there's buses, a lot of families don't want their kids on the bus, understandably so, right?
Yes.
Understandably so. So they're driving them, which then further delays the arrival procedure because you can't send all these kids in a hallway at once. You have to stage them in because of COVID-19.
You have to stage them in. And I will say that is accurate. Getting the COVID procedures done in each individual car. And at my school, I think the amount of car arrivals and pickups doubled because nobody wants to be on the bus. And I can't really blame them. But you have to have a teacher out there before they're even allowed to come out of the car. They have to have their temperature taken and all that. So like, it's a much slower process than last year. Like if we had that amount of cars, you'd be like, go ahead, hop out, walk down the sidewalk. But it's not like that anymore. It's a much slower process. It takes a lot more teachers to get to all those cars. And, school used to start at 9 and now it's like, you're lucky if it'll start at 9:15, like.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I work with some schools where they had to, because of the COVID-19 procedures, they've had to double or nearly triple the number of buses that they were using before in order to get only 10 or 11 kids on the bus.
Yeah.
And so they're really staggering in is what's happening because a bus will arrive. The staff or whoever's out there helps those children get off the bus, takes their temperature. Children are sitting on other buses waiting for that procedure.
For the staff to get there in order to
Right. So there's like a staggering. There's a lot more staggering both in and out of a school. So what that does is it delays the start of, for lack of a better word, the instructional day is now delayed start and early end. Right? Because time was taken at the beginning and the end.
100% accurate. Yes.
And I work with some schools who used to be able to start that instructional time of the day, gather the kids together, do their opening, whatever. They used to be able to do that at like 9:15 the latest. Now they're doing it at 10 o'clock.
No, that's 100% true. Yes. It takes so much longer to get through just those procedures. There's also takes so much longer to get through any meal procedure that you might have. Like in the past, you were always washing hands before lunch, right? But now it's like, you got to wash hands. You can't have a line at the sink anymore because they can't distance if there's a line at the sink. So there's like this walking time that adds to the hand washing time. And then you have to disinfect because they're all at desks in my school. To disinfect the desk before they even sit down with their lunchbox because you want to make sure it's a clean eating surface, So that procedure alone, it takes at least an hour for lunch.
Wow.
And snack the same thing. Because like you got a half hour of eating and 15 minutes before to prep, and after lunch it's the same thing. Wash your hands. You just touched a whole bunch of stuff that came from your house and you just touched food. We have to now disinfect your desk again because your mask was off while you were eating and you were touching things and there might be food on your desk. So it's 15 minutes before and after, which might have before lunch in the past been like, 5 minutes? Well,
it was faster because we used to be able to take a whole bunch of kids over to a sink and have them stand there and sing with us and wait. We can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore.
So people have been asking me, and schools have been saying to me, how do you think is the best way to organize this? Because we have to take very small groups of children to the bathroom to wash their hands. We can't take everybody anymore and kind of cycle them through as fast as possible. We have to make sure they're doing that 20 seconds of hand washing. We have to disinfect tables before they come back in. So we've been talking a lot of logistics like that, schools and I.
It's a lot of logistics.
Like, here's what we should do. Think about where the kids are going to be sitting. Can you get them at the same table so that you take those children to wash their hands while other children are still doing this? And like, it's a lot of those sort of logistics when I talk to schools. A lot of logistics around departure too, even more so than arrival. The kids are staggering in.
Yes.
But the ability to stagger them out, people are telling me departure is just taking way longer than they anticipated.
Departure is taking at least an hour at my school, probably longer. I mean,
and you're in an elementary school. So
I'm in an elementary school.
Right. So if we're going to talk about early childhood in childcare settings, I'm here to share with you, it's not entirely different. And some of the challenge in those settings has to do with the staggering arrival and departures because of families' work schedules.
Right.
This is making it very challenging for them because while parents used to be able to just run their kids in, first of all, parents can't come in. So you have to have a staff member, right? You have to have staff members kind of always at the ready.
Right.
To take children from their families and take their temperatures or whatever they're doing and get them into the classrooms that you can only take so many at a time. So in each setting, there are definitive challenges around arrival, departure, and meal times in all these settings.
In all the settings.
Another challenge has to do with like going outside, coming back in. We've had to add another kind of 10, 15 minutes on each end of something like playground time or recess.
Yes. And to go, like, at least in our state, I don't know what it's like in other states. In our state, the children are allowed to take their masks off when they are outside during recess, right? So now when you get to wherever you are assigned for recess that day, because at our school, they had to split all the recess yard so that one group is on one section at a time. So you're not like all mobbed in there. You have to bring a Ziploc bag labeled for each child so that when they do take their mask off, they could put it in the Ziploc bag so it's sealed, and then you put it in a bin, which they have to do that all before they even arrive at the equipment, because they have to wear it walking to the playground. And then the same thing at lineup, when you're ready to come in, you're not allowed to step foot in the building unless your mask is on. So you can't just walk in and be like, oh, we'll put our masks on when we get in the classroom. No, you have to do all of that before you even get to the door. You have to make sure their mask is on properly. Then they hold their Ziploc, because you shouldn't be touching their Ziploc. Now it has the mask germs on it, and it's like a lot for just that. And then there is like
that explains why some settings are like, just keep the masks on outside.
Yes. Yes, because it is I don't mind them because you just need a break from your mask after a while, and so, but yesterday I brought the kids out and I just took them straight out, and I forgot the bags and everything. I was like, just leave your mask on, and they're like, okay, cool. Like, they just played with their mask. They're just happy to play. They're just happy to play. They really don't
care so much. They get to go outside.
They don't care at all. Yeah. They just want to play.
If Alison and I are talking about these challenges, plus I want to add one more challenge so that we can have right-sized expectations of what's happening in school this year. Another challenge is the fact that many places are hybrids, where there are some children at home kind of remotely connecting to their class that is taking place live in school with children. So there are some children live in a classroom while others are logging into that class. Yeah. There can be technological challenges with that. Teachers are feeling their way through things like the placement of the iPad when we do different activities, so that those children can see. There's a delay when you're speaking to those children. We want to speak to those children. They're part of the class. But when you say to them, tell us about that. There is a delay for the unmuting and the technology and all that stuff. So this whole hybrid thing is not such smooth sailing. People are having trouble knowing even how to angle their technology. Things like, we're going to be doing this activity about sorting or patterning in school. How do I help children at home do that? Now I have to figure out, like, what do they have where they can do this along with me? How can we tell what they're doing? I feel like hybrid is one of the more challenging models. Having the children all in person or all home eliminates that kind of odd, we have kids on a Brady Bunch box in Brady Bunch boxes on the screen.
It's really hard. Like, my school did 2 weeks of remote. Everyone was remote. And now we're in this, like, it's not everyone is like, you still have the option to stay home, right? So it's not like a full hybrid. It was like you could opt in and be in school, or you could opt out and be distance, but you'll still be keyed into what's going on. I had such a really good rhythm when I was all remote, because I had all the kids and they were right there, and I was at my house and I was like, okay, I can organize my space properly.
And we didn't have any of these delays either.
There was no delays. It was just like, and everybody's in it, everybody's on the computer. They're all on the screen. We're all doing the same thing. And I was able to plan that way. And I just had this really good groove and this really good rhythm. And now that it's kind of like split, where you're like, it's really hard to divide your attention, because you want to pay attention to the kids on screen. You want to include them,
yes.
But at the same time, you want to include all these kids that are in person. And it's very hard to kind of do both. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I have 10 kids sitting here staring at me live.
Staring at me. And it makes
I'm trying to... Yeah.
And that slowing of the process, now you're losing the kids that are live, because you're like, oh, we have to, and it's nobody's fault. It's just like the way the technology is. It takes a long time to unmute or mute or like get them on there. And it's really hard. And then you're kind of, it's hard to get into a rhythm at school to teach a lesson, because you got a lot more than just you talking to a group of kids. It's like you're talking to a group of kids, and you're talking to a group of kids that are at home, and they're all in a different setting at home, at their homes, and you don't know what's going on there. And like, you never know what's going to happen. And it's just like, it's really hard.
That's why I think in some places they decided that there were going to be some teachers who teach only remote and some teachers who teach only the students in their classroom. And what I'm hearing is that that's going a bit smoother, because
I kind of can imagine that it would.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's going smoother, but it isn't reality for everybody. It isn't a budgetary reality for everybody, especially these days. So just know, if your child's in that sort of situation, that there are some challenges attached to that on both ends, whether your child is in school or home. So I guess what we want to say, and I mentioned before, right-sized expectations. Yeah. But all this adds up to, folks, is a reduction in the instructional time of a school day. That's what it adds up to. Where we used to be able to, let's say our instructional day used to realistically be 5 hours, because there were other transitions and things going on.
With lunch and recess and other things going on. Yeah.
Let's say our instructional day was approximately 5 hours.
5 hours.
My experience now is that that's been cut down to about 3 hours, maybe a little less, which means we're not going to have as much time to teach as we did in the past. So we have to have really right-sized expectations of how much teachers are going to accomplish.
Yes.
And this is not for lack of effort, folks. Not for lack of planning,
not for lack of effort at all.
Not for lack of effort. It just is the situation we're in.
Yeah.
That the instructional time has been reduced by the things that have to be done to keep children safe. Period. Right? I think that talking about tips for working within a hybrid model is probably the next episode we should do, Alison.
Yeah, I think
because we're starting to. I get just endless inquiries. How should I do this? How should I coordinate that? So we're starting to. When the work that I'm doing, we're starting to figure it out. Myself and administrators are sitting and starting to figure this out to give people advice. So hopefully, I'll have some solid advice next week. And maybe those of you who have already opened are still feeling your way through things, so that when I give you this solid, what I think anyway is solid advice next week, that you can try it. I mean, we don't know. Everything is so new.
That's what's hard, is like you're absolutely giving solid advice, but until you're in it and you try to implement it, you don't know if it's going to work. Because guess what? None of us have taught in a pandemic before, so we really don't know. We're trying our best, but we don't know.
We don't know. Not only have none of us taught in a pandemic before, none of us were students in a pandemic before. So we have we have no frame of reference. If I can think back, aren't there times when you think back to when you were a student and you think, oh, that's how my teacher did it. I really enjoyed that. I think I'm going to try that. But we can't do that with it. We can't think back and go, here's how I handled the last pandemic in hybrid learning and arrival and dismissal. We don't have it. This is like, I tell Alison, now when people say to me, how should we do? What should we do? And I'm giving advice thinking, gee, I hope that works. And I'm always telling people, listen, if it doesn't work, tell me, and we'll tweak it and we'll modify it, because we have no experience with this. I'll just keep thinking. We'll keep thinking and trying things. I was talking with a group today, and I told Alison, over the past several days, there's 4 words that I've been using a lot when people are feeling uncertain or feeling like, what if we do it wrong? You know, teachers now, they're very concerned with doing it wrong. They don't want to add to the pile of things that children need to deal with by quote unquote doing it wrong. There's one thing that I heard Dr. Brene Brown say. She's a researcher out of the University of Houston, and she researches shame and vulnerability. If you've never heard of her, please look her up. She has best-selling books.
Fab. Yeah.
She's so great. Best-selling books, one of the most listened to TED Talks ever. She has a special on Netflix. She's amazing how she explains these things, right? She has her own podcast now. And she said on that podcast that one of the things she often tells herself is, I'm not here to do it right. I'm here to get it right. And I think that's very true for this school year. We're not going to go in necessarily doing it right. We're here to get it right. So we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep weaving and bobbing and adjusting. And while that happens, these are the 4 words that I've been telling everybody. And I said to Alison earlier, I think this is how we should sign the podcast off from now on, because people have really attached to it when I've said it. The theme of this year, folks, and perhaps the sign off of this podcast from here on in, are these 4 words: understanding and patience. Look, I'm going to blow it now. Ready? I'm going to start again. I get all tongue-tied. Understanding and patience, forgiveness and grace.
Yes. For everyone.
For everyone. For the families, for the teachers, for the administrators, for the consultants, for everyone.
For everyone.
Right?
For everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. We hope that this glimpse inside what we're hearing and witnessing is happening will help you to understand why things may be a little different, and maybe you thought that there was going to be more progress than is happening. This is why. So again, understanding and patience, forgiveness and grace.
Forgiveness and grace. Yeah.
There you go. And 5 stars.
5 stars, everyone. If you want to contact us, find us on our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. We always love hearing from you. Also, you can write us a question for our 100th episode, which is soon. Very
saying
soon.
That. I don't even believe you anymore.
It is soon. And, we're also on Facebook, How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast. You can reach us there too. We'll always get back to you.
And share our episodes. We will catch you next time on the podcast. I think from now on, after I say that, I'm going to say those 4 words. Everybody listen for it. And when I forget to do it, you all can write to us and remind me.
Yeah.
Catch you next time.
Catch you next time.